Hello, everybody. It's Chaplain Ken again. Well, good Friday afternoon to all of you, and I certainly hope you all are doing well today. You know, I'm one of those people that enjoys reading the scripture. In fact, I enjoy studying the scripture. I enjoy meditating upon the scripture, kind of digging deep into the scripture, if you will. You know, apart from Jesus in the Bible, one of my favorite biblical characters is Daniel in the Old Testament. And I think what I like most about Daniel is that he's so steady. He's very even-keeled across all the seasons of his life. What we find in the early part of the book of Daniel is that Daniel's just a boy. He's probably a teenager when something very important happens. The king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, invades Israel and conquers Israel. And what he does is he sends off into captivity members of the royal family, members of the nobility, and that included Daniel and a number of Daniel's friends. You see, Nebuchadnezzar has a plan for these people. He's going to take them back to Babylon and he's going to re-educate them. He's going to re-educate the Hebrew out of them, and he's going to re-educate them with what it means to be Babylonian. It's a 3-year plan. Now, a couple of years into this, Nebuchadnezzar has a very interesting dream. In fact, I call it the impossible dream. Remember the song The Impossible Dream from the Broadway musical Man of La Mancha? Well, King Nebuchadnezzar has his own impossible dream. He doesn't tell anybody what the dream is, but he expects the magicians, the enchanters, the sorcerers, and the astrologers, what you and I would know as the wise men, the magi of Babylon, to not only tell him the dream, but interpret the dream for him. Well, the astrologers, the magi, the wise men, the magicians, they know that that's virtually impossible. Nobody can tell you what you dreamt last night. And on top of that, probably nobody can interpret that for you correctly. Well, King Nebuchadnezzar, he's pretty intent on having his sorcerers and magicians do both of those things. In fact, he gets so upset with them at one point, he says, if you can't do this, I'm just going to kill the whole lot of you. Well, you know what? Daniel and some of his friends were in that group of wise men and magi. So Daniel, he's a little bit concerned about that. His neck is on the line if he can't come up with what the dream is and what the interpretation is. What I want to notice today about Daniel is how he handles this kind of impossible situation. The king has an impossible dream, but it puts Daniel in an impossible situation. It's found in Daniel chapter 2, and I'd like to read just a few verses of that for us. In Daniel chapter 2, verse 17, this is what it says. Then Daniel went to his house and made the matter known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions. Now, those names sound a little unfamiliar to us. But when Nebuchadnezzar took the Israelites out of Israel and carried them off to Babylon, he changed their names. In fact, Daniel was given the Babylonian name Belshazzar. And his 3 friends, they were given Babylonian names also. You and I would know them as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But the first thing I'd like for us to notice about what Daniel does here is that he brought the issue, his impossible issue, to like-minded people. Like-minded people who think the way that he thinks. Now, for me and you, for us today, that might be people in the church. That might be other people of faith. That might be people who are well connected to God. But that's what Daniel does first. Then I wanted to look at what he does next. It continues in the very next verse, Daniel 2:18, and it says this. And he told them to seek mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that Daniel and his companions might not be destroyed with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. So Daniel, first he goes to like-minded people, his three friends. You and I know them as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He shares this impossible situation with them, and then he has them pray with him about that impossible situation. Now you and I, we can learn from that. You see, because what Daniel understood was that God was his first option. God was his first resort. Lots of times in our lives, we'll look at our impossible situations and we'll say, man, God is my last resort. But Daniel understood something. God was his first resort. So he has his three friends, along with himself, praying to God that God would give them the answer that King Nebuchadnezzar's looking for, what the dream was, and also what the interpretation of it was. Listen to what is written next in Daniel chapter 2, verse 19. It says this, "Then the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision of the night. Then Daniel blessed the God of heaven." So Daniel shares his impossible situation with his three friends, and the four of them pray about it. God's their first resort, not their last resort. And God answers their prayer. Daniel gets a vision in the middle of the night, and it's the answer to the prayer that he's been looking for. And what we see is once he gets that answer, out of the answer flows praise and thanksgiving to God. Now, you and me today, we kind of find ourselves in an impossible situation. We're kind of caught up in this worldwide pandemic of the COVID-19 virus. And so I hope you've been doing what I've been doing. I've been connecting with like-minded people by telephone, by email, by texting, and sometimes in person. And I've asked them to pray with me. Do you know I've been praying for all of you, for all of Friendship Village, that God would protect us from the COVID-19 virus? I think God's done a remarkable job to this point, and I have confidence that he's going to do that in the future. So once Daniel gets the answer to his prayers, out of it flows praise and thanksgiving to God. Let me read for you the next 3 verses of that praise and that thanksgiving that Daniel gives to God. This is what he says. "Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, to whom belong wisdom and might. He changes times and seasons. He removes kings. He sets up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what is in the darkness, and the light dwells in him. To you, O God of my fathers, I give thanks and praise, for you have given me wisdom and might, and have now made known to me what we asked of you. For you have made known to us the king's matter." Daniel does all of this, and you know what? He's probably not even 20 years old yet. And his experiences are very informative for us in our impossible situations, whether it's the COVID-19 or anything else. The next time you and I have an impossible situation, I hope that we will confide in like-minded people. It might be somebody in the church. It might be a friend who has deep faith. It might be somebody you know who's well connected to God. But confide in them what the impossible situation is. And then have them pray along with you for an answer to the impossible situation. And once you get the answer to the impossible situation, do what Daniel did. Give praise and thanksgiving to God. You know, here we are in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic, and I hope that when we get on the other side of it, we'll give God praise and thanksgiving for all that he did through it to protect us, keep us safe, show us grace, love, and mercy. So until the next time, God bless all of you.